Welcome to Path of Casuals and Filth. My name is Nick, I play Eldar, and this is where I hang out with friends and get a little less bad at 40k and other tabletop war games. And this is a journey over the last year that started in Cory's basement, and now it is ending in Cory's basement. I'm here with Cory, and Cory, where do you want to start on this one?
Well, I was playing Deathwatch.
Yep.
And Deathwatch were voted by lots of different polls, and the general consensus is they're probably the worst faction, at least competitively. I think the numbers just kind of spoke to themselves. I really haven't properly run this codex. I think I did a little bit of Crusade stuff out of this codex.
Yeah.
But as an actual playing Deathwatch, I haven't played Deathwatch in ages. And
yeah,
it's garbage.
It's been a hot minute since we did Eldar and Deathwatch.
Yeah, so I felt that your last episode was you were going to take it, you were going to sweep it. It's like, I don't feel bad. What a great conclusion. I won't say that I'm playing the worst thing and say, oh, well, I lost because I played the worst guys and their rules are terrible.
Yeah.
No,
that was not how the dice fell on this one.
Why are we still here? Just to suffer?
And I think there was more to it than the dice, but I think there's still lots of good stuff from this game to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
So just to get us started, can you tell me a bit about the army that you...
Yeah. I've done some things I revisited from the past. Some things were new. I knew that at one point there was like an actual good list. I don't think it's good anymore. But this idea of taking 2 dreadnoughts and a marine and a tech marine and keep them fairly close together, put the tech marine in between, and then you can hand out heals back and forth. I mean, it's just any kind of online shooter. You throw your medic between two headies. That sort of thing. I think that surprised people at one tournament a long time ago. And it's well, maybe I'll try that. I've never played a tech marine before. At the time, I didn't have 2 redemptors. I said I'll put my very unfair Leviathan Dreadnought there and see what happens. So that was my plan. It got subverted quite a bit. We'll talk about what that you may not be aware of, but things I did as a reaction to what you were doing.
Okay.
I had a Vindicar Assassin. That was a last-minute addition to this.
That was an amazing 90 points that you spent.
Yep. And what I was doing, actually, was I was thinking more... Like, I didn't think it was going to perform necessarily very well, just based on the board. You could just hide people away. All your guys were psychers. They could stand a line of sight of him, and then I had nothing to shoot at him. Shooting a strength 4 rifle at a tank.
Yeah.
And doing nothing. But I was taking a page out of what we were talking about before, this whole idea of hiding the unit away.
Yeah. So
that it's not necessarily more difficult to table, but you've got something there that is just like, am I going to go and get that?
Yeah.
Right? And it's just like, what a pain in the ass it is to get some of these things. So
yeah, that
was what I took there. I didn't take a ton of Marines. I got to play less Marines than I took. And I invested heavily in some Terminators, which never really let me down. They're expensive, and it really hurts when you pay for them. So, what is this that I'm paying for? Yeah. But they do their business. So, yeah, that's about it.
Well, especially in late game, if you have Terminators on the board, and part of how ours played out is when you've got Terminators on the board and someone else doesn't have a Terminator equivalent on the board, changes everything.
Teleport into the problem.
Yeah. Yeah. And that suddenly becomes the thing that has to get dealt with.
Yep.
So, I guess we'll talk a little bit about the game, the victory conditions, because this one was this one was Calvin Ball. Yep. This one, and we've done Calvin Ball before, yep. And we're just playing casual anyway, so it doesn't matter. But we went with the Strike Force mission, The Swarm Rises, And we went with that not from one of the match play books, but we went with that from one of the Crusade books. And we basically modified a multiplayer scenario to just be 2-player. And it was kind of a matter of necessity because someone who happens to be me may have forgotten the book that had the actual match play scenarios in it. But we had this. We looked through some of the scenarios, and it ended up working out really nicely because the table size that you've got was just the right size to do a lot of these.
Yeah.
Just because of how long it is. Like,
this was way more fun than putting 4 objectives down and just playing out a regular game.
Well, yeah, because I think just the abundance of objectives, and also the fact that in this mission, there was the possibility that those objectives could be destroyed and removed from the board, added a whole other dimension that hasn't been there in other games that we've done.
Absolutely. Like, so many of the and I know because of tournament play and everything else, but almost so many of the missions maybe have 1 paragraph in difference in those books. It's just like, set up your objectives, and then, there's our recon special rule, or just one little thing that makes it different, and it doesn't feel like you're actually doing anything. It's just, you're just throwing dice at each other. This felt, there was options. Am I going to come back here? Am I going to advance towards this thing?
Yeah.
There were consequences. There were actual choices.
And to fill in the blanks for anybody who isn't looking at page 58 of this very niche Crusade book, basically the Swarm Rises, the idea is that you're on the surface of a planet with swarms of insects, and that when you make too much noise on the surface, they come up and start doing mortal wounds.
The situation has only been made worse with the addition of yet more bees!
In this case, it was a little bit different, because what we had was crystals just kind of jutting up from the ground, because you had those awesome scenery objective pieces. And what we went with as kind of the story for it was, if you disturb like the ground too much, there's something weird and seismic under, and crystals just start shooting up all over the place.
Thematically, it worked out really great.
Yeah.
Deathwatch showing up on this world. Eldar are here. Maybe those crystals have some significance, but we gotta tread lightly.
Yeah.
And everything was fine until Deathwatch showed up and had stoppy robots. And
then it all just kind of went to hell.
Yep.
And the way that this works in practice is each time a unit advances or finishes a charge move, you have to roll a d6. On a 6, that unit suffers mortal wounds. But bigger than that is that if you have 10 or more models in objective range of a marker at the end of a battle round, each unit that's in range of that objective marker suffers mortal wounds, and the objective marker is removed from the battlefield. So there is the possibility that if you sat too many things on an objective, not only do you lose the objective, but you and anybody else in that zone are taking damage. So I thought that was cool. I thought as a scenario it was neat.
Yeah, I'm all about injecting narrative in it, and this was just something different. It was a breath of fresh air.
Yeah. And I
was very surprised.
I mean, we're now kind of in the late days, or we're kind of at the last chapter.
Twilight of Ninth.
I like that. The Twilight of 9th edition. But, I mean, I wouldn't mind coming back and revisiting some of the stuff in some of the other Crusade books, just because I can see this being a lot of fun. Missions like this I can see being really fun to run. And I think at the end of the day, that's what we're looking for, and that's what I look for in a game. It's just...
I would recommend this one to anybody.
Yeah.
Whether you're playing competitively or not. Even competitively, this one. Just options. Wow, what am I going to do? There's so many objectives. Am I going to make her mad? Am I going to take a chance on mortal wounds?
Yeah.
To score those points.
Yeah.
Really interesting.
So, the way this played out, Cory, you said that you'd brought in Terminators, you brought in a couple of Dreadnoughts, you brought in a Tech Marine, Librarian, a bunch of Marines, and the Corvus Blackstar, and the Assassin. Was there anything else I missed, or...?
2 Dreadnoughts, Tech Marine, Vindicar Assassin, Watchmaster, Librarian, 2 groups of Marines, and some kind of configuration. There's so many names for them that good luck remembering them. It was a Fortis kill team, which is basically Primaris.
Okay.
Leaders had Thunderhammers. It didn't matter. Proteus kill team. They were on the board for about a minute, and we'll get into that.
Yep.
But they had a bunch of frag cannons. 4 frag cannons, because I should point out we were doing some Arcs of Omen here, so
yeah,
this stuff was free. If you're gonna play stuff, play the biggest things.
Yeah. Go big or... Yeah.
Yep.
And speaking of which, what I ended up bringing was I added to my Shroud Runners. I think in previous games I've only run 3 or 5. I added a 6th one for this, and it was the DoorDash bike, which I love that.
I'm sure it's on screen right now.
Yeah. Oh, probably. I could make it happen. So yeah, I brought more Shroud Runners. I brought everything in squads of 10 because I didn't realize we were going to be playing a scenario where that was going to specifically become a problem. But you know what? I wouldn't change that. And I think that's part of the fun of it, is playing a scenario that you aren't necessarily kitted out for, and then you have to figure out,
And like I was saying to you, like even with the 10 units, like if you lost one,
yeah,
then fine.
Yeah. Or if you just put like a few models in range, you're good. So there's ways that, we got around it. But I also brought my Wave Serpent, my Fire Prism, which I've never run this in the game as a Fire Prism, and it did pretty good, I think. Quite happy with how that played out. It's a shame that led to the Great Corvus Blackstar fiasco of 2023, but we're gonna...
Some might say it did too well.
Yeah, it's task failed successfully. But I brought a 10-man squad of Banshees, Dire Avengers, a couple squads of Guardians, a 5-man squad of Rangers, and I brought 2 Farseers and a Autarch, who didn't... None of them really did a whole lot in this game.
Unfortunately, a lot of them were volunteered.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you couldn't get... Well, not that they had to be optimum in terms of line of sight of things, but I don't think you were necessarily playing them the way you wanted to play them. It's just like,
yeah,
I gotta do this. Luckily, probably a lot of your powers and stuff weren't so dependent on line of sight, so
yeah,
they weren't like nerve. But it's like, I'm gonna hide in this doorway for a while and
yeah,
do some magic.
Yeah. And I think part of the challenge was that with your assassin, but also where they had to move lengthwise up the board, that posed an issue. But since we've gone over what's in the armies, what do you think you did good this game, or what are some of the things that you think went really well for you this game?
Well, as I alluded to, like, I felt early game, and this has definitely happened with a lot of games I play, like a 40k.
Yeah.
Is that you went first. And I'm not going to go down the you went first train too much, but
yeah,
there are some feel bads usually where, even though you hide your stuff really well, oftentimes you're putting stuff back on the shelf before they get. Okay, I spent 1,500 points and 3 of it's going back on the table. I might as well not put it there in the first place.
Yeah.
But I guess that's countered with how many points do you spend turn 1 to make those points go away. But like I said, that is just the way that the first is.
Yeah.
Now you were able to capitalize on first really well with those spikes because you got way down the board with your redeployment.
Yeah.
We'll talk about your redeployment because that was really, really, really effective. Not necessarily in terms of dice rolls and math.
Yeah.
But psychologically, like, I think the game's one way, and then it turns around. It's like, okay, all these plans I have are gone.
Yeah. Pull
that cartridge out, put a new one in. What did I do well? The 2 dreads did the business.
Yeah.
Vindicar Assassin definitely earned his paycheck. He's going to be a school. He's going to be a teacher now. He doesn't need the battlefield anymore.
They paid for college.
Yeah. yeah, there's stories of renown for being the car assassin and what was accomplished.
Something that I noticed, and I don't know if this is something that's happened in previous games, and I don't even know if I'm seeing this correctly. But you had things that kind of came in waves, in the sense that you had what you played, you had basically your troops kind of making an initial push, and then the slow wall of dreadnoughts moving in behind them. Yeah. But at the same time, you also had everything that was in the Black Star that was going to be moving in.
Yes.
And that flopped. But even like with that flopping,
yes.
You still had the Terminators that came in near the end. There was always like a constant new thing that I had to address. There was no point where, like, there were points where I had the illusion of, okay, I have board control. Yep. But that would immediately change because you had something that was waiting that I wasn't ready to deal with and that I wasn't planning for.
Yeah, so in so much as before the game started, you took 3 of your guys and, oh, the bikes aren't here, the bikes are actually here. These guys aren't here, they're actually here. It was almost the same thing with me where I was looking at my board state saying, God, I got nothing here. And it's all over. It's over on another shelf in sitting in vehicles or in a teleportarium. And then slowly I just ended up getting some solutions. So Terminators, okay, where do I got to put a Band-Aid on this? Okay, well, they're going to come in right here. They're going to deal with this problem, and they're going to be able to help you secure some stuff. Or just come in and be a general disruption.
Yeah.
Because sometimes that's what you need. You need to disrupt the enemy's plan and cause a problem so that something that they were doing very well, they have to, at some point, kind of either completely abandon it or turn it down a notch, because I just can't move over here and sit around like it's all falling apart over there. These guys kind of go this way now. So, yeah, it's one of these sort of things, like, I think I always undervalue having stuff in reserve, because what's the point of having 600 points or whatever on a table, not on the board? It's like, this is more turns I'm not getting any value out of them. Yeah. But you got to compare that to what's those extra, what are they worth now that they're showing up and can cause such a big surprise or cause such a big disruption?
Yeah.
I don't know. When you have things sitting around, a bunch of dudes sitting around in tanks, and it's like turn 1, they're driving. Turn 2, they're driving. Oh, maybe they'll get out this turn and start shooting. It's like, the game's half over.
Yeah.
Like, what were those points actually doing? Right? And I always feel bad about, look, that was 3 turns of people not shooting.
Yeah.
Right? And then sometimes if you're playing against someone who's close combat, all you're doing is delivering them a meal.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, okay, well, here's these gun guys who are just going to jump out and they're going to get charged and ruined.
Yeah.
So why am I spending all these points and spending all these resources to do that? Especially in such a gun-heavy army as Deathwatch.
Yeah.
But, like I said, you could go the opposite way. You can have all your dudes down on one side of the board moving 6 inches every turn, moving nowhere, and by the end of the game they can't collect enough points because they can't reach anything.
Yeah. So the first turn, we'd basically both deployed. I used Phantasm and moved a bunch of stuff farther up than it originally was. I think that was something that, like, I did mostly okay, but I think if I had my time back, the one thing I either would have moved up with that as well, or I might have just put them in reserve at the start of the game and brought them in by Webway Strike later, was the Dire Avengers, because the Dire Avengers ended up just being wasted points.
Yes.
My plan originally was if I stick them here, that's area denial that keeps you from dropping things in.
Yep.
But that was basically all they did, and for the points that I put into them, it wasn't worth just...
No. The table was too long. Like, they could have been collecting points from the hop.
Absolutely. And my thought process with doing Phantasm and moving the bikes up was I saw the troops that you had down, and I was thinking if I could take care of the troops so that the troops weren't taking objectives, and leave just the problem of the dreadnoughts and the Black Star, I could basically limit the number of moving parts that were on the board and just try and address things as they came and push up into the center and do a bunch of my optional secondary stuff. It didn't work out that way, but...
And, like, for me, I was so troop few. I mean, like, the common complaint is that, I mean, Deathwatch infantry, like, Space Marines aren't chaff.
Yeah.
They're, like, 27 points each.
Yeah.
And, like, unless, like, it's tricky. I mean, you want to flood the board with all your bolter disciplines and do all those sort of things. Yeah. And I completely did the opposite this way. I think the scenario awarded that because there were so many objective markers. Yeah. That losing my infantry, like, it didn't really matter too much. Yeah. So, and losing my infantry, we'll get into that. But, like, there's a whole group of infantry that one of my 3 that just never saw on the table really at all. So yeah.
And I was hoping that if infantry was something that I could, like, I knew it was a weakness, and I kind of leaned into that. And on one hand, I'm looking at what I did and thinking, am I really proud of myself for this? Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I think I'm getting better at playing the game.
Yes. No, I fully felt like you had the game in the first half. There were some unfortunate dice. Yeah. That really turned some tides. Whenever, like, here's the thing, even outside of 40K. Yeah. Anytime you can create threats on multiple fronts, like, you gotta do that. Yeah. You can't, like, if you're just playing, like, a bunch of Imperial Guard, and you're just running a bunch of Guard and a Knight. Yeah. And, like, or whatever the rules say you can do, the Knight is the obvious target. That's the problem. And you just gotta deal with it. I'm not gonna worry about 100 las guns. Yeah. That thing is the problem. But 2 dreadnoughts, this guy up here, the assassin, so you can kind of overwhelm the enemy with problems. Yeah. And then Terminator showing up later on, and it's just like, I can't... Do I spend the whole turn getting rid of one of these? Yeah. And then, because I luckily the game has profiles for damage. Yeah. But if it didn't, and you don't remove something off the board and you do damage to all 3 things, you might as well have not shot at them at all. Yeah. So, like, multiple threats, in lots of different competitive board games and stuff like that, or war games and stuff, like, creating multiple problems for the opponent, I think, is really important if you want to do well with it. Yeah, and I think that's something that I wasn't doing great early into playing 40K. I think it's something that I've gotten better at, but it's something I could still stand to do a little bit better. So I think for me, that's going to be one of my areas to kind of improve. You had dual tanks.
Yes.
And although one of them was a transport, and those bikes. Yes. And I almost left one of your bikes running around. I overcommitted to make sure that it's like, is he going to lose it to morale? Is this going to do? If he has one left, is he going to spend a command point to maybe keep it around or do something, do a reroll or some stratagem or something? And it's like, I'm not sure if leaving that one bike, because you could have went and parked that somewhere really, you could have took off, disappeared down the board, and it's like, okay, well, now I got to spend the next 6 rounds walking, chasing that thing around.
And that was the one problem with the first turn thing that I did, is that, I could put a lot of firepower into the Marines themselves, but I knew doing that I was going to get slapped the next turn by the Dreadnoughts. Yeah. And in a way, maybe the original position would have been better because then they just could have been a constant source of harassment. Mm-hmm. But I kind of already had the Rangers doing that in cover. Yep.
Something unfortunate happened there, but yeah.
Yeah, but Anyway,
Yeah.
Let's talk about the Black Star,
Black
because
Star, the one that caused the unfortunate situation.
there were so many turning points in this game, and I feel like that was one that was kind of a turning point for both of us.
Yes. I said at the end of the game, that one ship, that one dice roll,
Yeah.
took a whole turn off the game.
Yeah.
That like saved us an hour.
Yes. Yep. On a 6, it exploded. And then we had to deal with that. So
And there was a lot of stuff around it.
yeah. The Fire Prism did good. It did good on its first outing, but it did too good, and a lot of Guardians died.
Yeah. I did not foresee that when I ran that flyer 50 inches up the board, put it face to face with your Fire Prism, that would have been the resolution, and that Rangers and infantry and Deathwatch guys and just board clearing.
Yeah.
The smoke tokens went down, and it was fully appropriate.
Yeah. Oh, man. And then after that, the Guardians that didn't die in the explosion picked off... You said it was the third of your Marine squads? Or
So I had 6, I believe. I can see them here. 1, 2... So I had 4... I had a Firstborn, a bunch of Marines.
Yeah.
Because of Arcs at Owen, I gave them 4 frag cannons. One guy had Storm Shield and Storm Bolter, and the leader guy had a Combi Plasma Bolter.
Yeah.
And running up the board, I said, I'll drop them off somewhere, and with course Black Star, and it'll be great. We're like practically like we drop them in, half range frag cannons, auto hitting, just destroying everything. And unfortunately, not only did we roll a 6 for the thing to explode, I rolled a 6 for damage. That got rid of 3 of them.
Yeah.
And I think a few seconds later, there was some cleanup you did on that area, and then that was the end of that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And that was like real points, not Arcs of Omen points with free board gear.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a lot. That was a dreadnought cost to dudes.
Yep.
That just never got played at all. Not a single dice roll got rolled for them. It was just damage and put them on the shelf.
Yeah. How many points, out of curiosity? I know the Redemptor's like around 185-ish.
Mm-hmm.
How many points was the Leviathan Dreadnought?
So the Leviathan, you have to pay the CP tax first.
Oh, right. Okay.
So it's considered a relic dreadnought.
Yeah.
So because there's now you're 10,000 years or more into the future, there ain't many of those. It has Volkite weapons. It has things that, like I said, barely exist. Technology. Yeah. And so let me just bring up what the cost of one of those is. Because
it put in a lot of work, this game.
It tends to do that. I've only run it maybe 2 or 3 times previous. Maybe I'm thinking 2, and it's I
think you've slapped me with that Leviathan Dreadnought before.
Yes.
Yeah.
You had it very early on. You had a fantastic win with Dreadnought, or with a 3-way game with Orcs and Eldar, and you had more points. And that was one of the last units I had left. And I didn't have to range, and you just hit yourself in a building.
Yeah.
And you won on points because I just couldn't get to you. It was going to take too long for you to walk that way. Believe it or not, it's only 240.
Wow.
240 and a command point.
That's not bad. But
it's getting free war gear. See, that's...
Yeah.
If it wasn't for that...
The free war gear definitely makes a difference. And I think if this is the end game state of 9th,
yep.
I think this will make it interesting as kind of a format if people go back and revisit 9th, or 8th, 9th, 8th and a half.
Arc Development, I think, is this like end of 9th bonus round, where it's just like play all the fun stuff you want. Just get this out of your system, because there's going to be a new thing coming, and like you're just not going to see some of these models anymore because real points are coming back again.
Yeah,
but we're counting down the clock. Free play mode.
Yeah.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, we didn't end up destroying any markers.
Nope.
Everything stayed fairly intact. There was a bit of damage from disruptions of running around and charging and advancing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
The Black Star blew away a bunch of your rangers, did a bunch of damage to your fire prism, wiped out a bunch of infantry on your side and my side. It was spectacular.
Yep. And while that, I think just shortly before that was happening, there was a while where I was thinking with my Banshees of running them in such a way that would actually blow up one of the objective markers and make problems for the Marines that were on it. But that didn't end up panning out. And then
you should start talking about the Banshee action.
I feel so bad about how that went. I feel like this could have been their time to shine. Because what I basically did was they went in swinging against the Marines. They were doing great.
Watchmaster.
Yep. The Watchmaster ended up falling back.
Or two at that time.
And I was in a position where I either had to run the Banshees across the board into Terminators, or I needed to run them into Leviathan Dreadnought, which is suicide. But the thing with taking on the Leviathan Dreadnought is at that point in the game, I had nothing else with enough range or AP to deal with either of the Dreadnoughts, and I was trying to look at the end game of this. Like, I saw this wall of Dreadnoughts advancing, and one of them I could probably deal with, or the damage from one of them you could mitigate. But if that Leviathan Dreadnought made it to the other side of the board, none of the Dire Avengers or Guardians or any of the squishy stuff that I had was going to make it.
I should point out that the Redemptor, the way I had it kitted out, I had dual storm cannons.
Okay.
So it was throwing 16 shots, heavy. I managed to keep it into the right doctrine. I kept playing command points to keep it in and giving heavy weapons an extra AP.
Yeah.
Which worked out perfectly into this.
Yeah.
And I had no close combat. Now, I had close combat on the Redemptor, so in terms of which unit was on what side of the board, if the Redemptor was close to you, then that was a real question mark about the Banshees and the Redemptor.
Yeah.
But the Banshees and the Leviathan had little recourse because I didn't have a close combat weapon.
Yeah. And I was hoping that just like the weight of dice with, I think it was like 7 or 8 Banshees going into that with an Exarch and an Executioner, I thought that would be enough to do it. But the dice...
You had it. It was all good to go. I had 3 wounds left. No, actually, before that I had several wounds. But then you rolled 5 dice with these mega attacks.
Yeah.
And only one of them landed, and that was the death nail. Yeah,
that was the point where the game flipped again, because it kind of flipped when the Corvus Black Star thing happened. It kind of flipped for both of us at that point. Yeah. But then that was kind of the point where, all right, well, now there's no going back from this, which is unfortunate. But I think I'm pretty happy with how this game played out. Like,
I would have rather you had won, and I feel like the dice betrayed you on a couple of occasions.
The points where I was coming up with multiple 1s, and then immediately after you were coming up with multiple 6s, it was an omen.
I'm bad for that, but like the not getting rid of the Leviathan, because of those dice, like it literally was the dice's problem. Because I had the Tech Marine behind it, he went from 3 wounds to 6.
Yeah.
And then those would turn to 9. And I was just resetting the game.
Yeah.
Right? So...
And that was part of the Banshee gamble as well, was knowing that the Tech Marine was right there, and that if I didn't finish this thing off this turn...
Yeah. I almost wonder if it was almost a better move and maybe not, but because it probably wouldn't have mattered. But basically consolidating into him and maybe causing some trouble there. But I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure. What do you feel about the bike play? You went in very aggressive with the bikes.
Yeah. I have mixed feelings about the bike play.
I'm not sure about it either.
Yeah.
It caused me to put all resources in getting rid of them.
Yes.
And I'm sure I spent more points in getting rid of them than what you spent.
Yeah. Well, in total, I think they were only about 180 points.
Yeah, like the Redemptor by itself cost that.
Yeah.
Let alone the Leviathan. I went almost all in with both of them to get rid of them.
Yeah. I think what might have been better, and going back to the wasted Dire Avengers, if I had planted the Dire Avengers up there instead, and had them move so that they could basically fire into the Marines, it wouldn't have been as spectacular as having like 36 scatter laser shots, but it would have meant that instead of having the Dire Avengers parked at the back, that's where the Shroud Runners could have stayed.
I feel like that not taking the one blob and splitting them up.
Yeah, would have been a better...
I don't know if you had the slots to do it or anything like that, but like, because they're fast attack, and you had one of your tanks was fast attack as well, right? One of your transport.
The Fire Prism counts as heavy, and then the other one is dedicated transport. They were basically my only fast attack.
Okay. Because if you had them zooming around as not one blob,
then it's just confusion.
Yeah, because then you can deal with more problems. Because those guns, like I said, they got wicked range, and you can plant yourself out of range of the problem and deal with the problem. Yeah, because they're such a weird unit. They're so hard to play and they're so strange. But you could have zoomed right up to a corner and said, "Watchmaster, die." And I literally can't do anything about it. I can't shoot more than 36 inches away. Yeah. And then next turn, zoom over somewhere else and say, "You die." I can't fire back. Interesting.
Putting them where they could get slapped by the Dreadnought was the big mistake that I made this game.
Yeah, I think, early on, they gave my Dreadnoughts things to do. Yeah. Which they wouldn't have had. Yeah. Because they would have been, even though they move 8, you're never going to advance with them. Yeah. And they would just be moving along. And even though there was a lot of objectives on the board, every second turn you're only going to be able to capitalize on them. Yeah. Because you're not always moving in a straight line to get the stuff. We had buildings everywhere. So you're always wasting this movement, making these 90-degree going around buildings and getting to things. So, I don't know. If you had one bike left, I don't know if you would have used it to go up and get rid of the assassin. That, I think, would have been the best thing to do, because the assassin just continued to be a pain in the ass through the rest of the game. Yeah. And at the time, I didn't think of it so much as that. I was concerned what the one bike would do. Yeah. Because I was actually more afraid of the one bike than 6, which makes no sense. But the way it would have forced you to play if it did survive morale. Yeah. But you had one bike that would zoom around. You didn't care about it anymore. You could be reckless with it, and boom! I'm gonna drop it over here, and I got line of sight on the assassin. Now he's not -2 to hit. Yeah. Huh. Okay. That's now a problem. Is the assassin gonna start shooting at the bike now? Yeah. Instead of shooting at HQs. Wow. Yeah. But like I said, I had to commit. I overkilled getting rid of the last bike. But the assassin was a really solid choice, especially because in previous games I've really kind of leaned on my HQs, especially for psychic stuff. And this whole game, they were either pinned down or... That's the way to put it, yeah. Just taken out completely. Like, that was a really good investment. I kind of wish that taking in the Inquisition as an army in 40k was a thing. Yeah. Like, being able to have, all 4 of those assassins. Yeah. Because I think you've only ever seen me play with this one. But there's other ones that, are close combat poison guys. If you decide to kill them, they explode and just, wipe out parts of the board. Jeez. they're maniacs. They're absolute maniacs. So I've actually it's too bad because even though like we talk about this being an army game,
Yeah.
what you end up putting down on the board doesn't constitute an army.
Yeah.
Right. You're laying down a couple of tanks and a bunch of dudes.
Yeah.
Right. That's certainly within the realm of what the Inquisition would bring as its own little group. Right.
Yeah.
It's really I'm hoping that at some point we're going to start because they had these Arbites guys, the Judge Dredd cops.
Yeah.
And I was hoping that was going to be the troop choice for the Inquisition, and that this was going to be like
that would be interesting.
Yeah, if they didn't do it, I don't know. Maybe 10th will change things, but it's like, are you guys stealthily making a new actual faction in the games by like taking something that already exists?
Yeah,
making enough,
just sprinkling enough things in.
Yeah, we're gonna take a Land Raider or whatever the tank is they can have. It's the Land Raider, and a few HQ Inquisitors, a couple of Assassins or whatever, and a bunch of these Arbites or whatever else, and boom, whole new codex.
Yeah.
But sadly, I don't think it's a thing yet.
Maybe not yet, but I could see it happening.
Yeah.
So on your side, I know we talked about the weirdness surrounding the Corvus Black Star and how the bikes weren't a great choice. Was there anything on your side that you might have done differently, or that?
Well, like I said, I've said this before, and I'll say it again. Like, Space Marines in the lore are made out to be these like super dudes, but like on the tabletop, it's just not that.
Yeah,
you're paying, and especially in Deathwatch, you're paying the points to put this on the table, and they might as well be 9-point guardsmen.
Yeah,
and sure, the toughness and wounds and stuff like that, but you're walking them up to objectives, and in playing against Eldar, playing against anything really. I mean, like, you're putting them in people's faces, and once you get into close combat, I mean, yeah, there are blade guard, there are ways you can do it, and I mean, even with Deathwatch, you can equip guys with swords and guns and stuff like that. But I don't know. I don't usually look forward to the fight phase if I'm running around Space Marines.
Yeah,
I've made the statement of if I'm in the fight phase, I'm losing the game, which is very much where because I started playing Deathwatch, and that was just usually the way.
Yeah,
but like I said, we've gotten better close combat things.
Yeah,
you're not going to take swords in Deathwatch.
No.
So yeah, it's a little bit of a problem there. They are a gunline army, and I don't know. Maybe if I played differently and not taken dreadnoughts and just filled the board with Marines, maybe it would be a different type of game.
But I think in this case, the dreadnoughts really worked well. I think having that slow advance after that initial group of Marines, I think it was effective in this game. I don't think I did the bike thing, but I don't think there was anything that you did that struck me as.
Yeah, I felt bad early on because I was kicking myself that I wasn't playing them aggressive enough. Turn one, because I was hiding them, because you had turn one on the go.
Yeah.
It was taking a lot of momentum and a lot of movement for them to get out of this cover I was putting them in. Even though they are moving 8 and they have big bases, they're slowly lumbering across the board, and that's beautifully thematic. But you're not going to be able to get across the board and secure stuff very well. Luckily, in this game, there were so many objectives that it wasn't too bad, and it was a scenario that rewarded the gun line.
Yeah.
Because you were pretty much within easy reach of moving everyone up, and hopefully everyone can get everyone can advance. Everyone can move up to that next round of things, and hopefully you can kind of put it all together. But yeah, I felt I was wasting points early game because the dreadnoughts could have been doing more.
Mm-hmm.
Especially the Redemptor. The Leviathan has got tons of range, and the early game there was lots of targets and things like that, so there were things for it to do. But the Redemptor, maybe I should have got the Redemptor up in the close combat more. I should have been more aggressive with the Redemptor because it was better in close combat, and it was kind of a win-win. So it's almost like I was only getting half the value out of it.
Yeah. I wonder as well, with the bike play, if I had kept them in cover and kept them just far enough back, then instead of going into the Marines, if they had gone into the Redemptor, I wonder if that would have made the game different.
The Redemptor, the Leviathan would have been the one to do it too.
Yeah.
Luckily, not luckily, but in 9th, you can shoot weapons in close combat.
Yeah.
And you can fall back and shoot. So there's not this whole thing of like tying up a Leviathan like there was in previous editions where you just you just put out one orc in front of it and say
and you just have it pinned.
It's just turned off.
Yeah.
That half of that page of the data set just goes in the garbage.
Yeah.
I don't know what the bikes would have done if it had literally gotten in the face of one of the dreadnoughts. Redemptor probably would have been a bad move because it actually is really good in close combat.
Yeah.
And because I didn't put any close combat weapons at all, I think even when we were fighting and I did the fight back with the Leviathan, you were like, that's it?
Yeah.
It's like, it's got a couple of feet that is just going to do 4 attacks, AP 0, 1 damage. So, yeah. A whole lot of nothing. But yeah, it's interesting. The bikes were the big question mark in this one.
Yeah. But I think I have learned things that hopefully I will be able to use going into 10th to... I feel like this last year was not a wasted experiment, for lack of a better way to put it. I think there was a lot that I kind of learned along the way about how to play this army, what to do, what not to do, and how to weigh different things. Even going back to questions of splitting fire, because the kind of big question for the last year has been, do I put all my shots into this? Do I split it between these 2 targets? And I think I'm getting better at not doing all one, not doing all the other, but having kind of the ability to make better judgment calls on that.
And the thing is like, I remember talking to a game store owner there the other day and basically talking about Warhammer and 40k and stuff like that. And they're like, well, I mean, really, when in addition, you kind of pick what faction it is you're playing. You put together your list, and you play that army 20 games, or whatever it is that you play some variation of that list until you're not memorizing rules, you're not forgetting rules, you're not having to look things up, and that everything you know that thing inside out.
Yeah.
And the thing is that I think when throughout us playing all the different things in this, I played almost all the armies I had.
I think so, yeah.
We did. Did we do Guard?
If we didn't do Guard in this last year, I know that we've done other games with Guard.
Yeah. We've definitely, but we did one with Chaos. We did one with Custodes. We didn't do Deathwatch. And so you've been doing the thing, which is consistently playing the one army within the general rule set of the game and making tweaks and experimenting and walking away and saying, I'm not going to take these guys anymore. Or these guys really, I thought they did this, but they actually do this.
Yeah.
When you actually, what they look like on paper and on the table, and the intimidation factor, and the amount of points that someone wasted against these sort of things, or vice versa.
Yeah.
You were reaping the rewards of being able to experiment with this one faction. Me, on the other hand, because I gotta always keep playing something different.
Yeah.
Kept playing something different, and don't necessarily get the advantage of this was a good idea. No, I'm not going to run these again. That's why I'm a bad fit for 40k, because I don't want to play the 20 games of the same army.
Yeah.
Right. I've got too many armies now, and every game I just want to not play the one I played before, which is exactly what you shouldn't do. But that's why I'm a bad fit for this game, because I have too many interests. And yeah, so I'm going to play Chaos Space Marine. I'm going to play Custodes this time. I'm going to play this. I'm going to play that. Like I said, Deathwatch. This was the first time I've actually used this book.
Wow.
And I'm glad, because book's trash. I was like going through stratagems. Okay, I'm gonna do orbital assault. Yeah, that'll do some. That's gonna be a weird one. Oh, not there anymore. Okay, well, I'm gonna do this. Oh, that's not there anymore. Yeah, no, they're at the bottom of the list, and I can 100% see why. They're Space Marines, but worse because they're more expensive.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
And it seems like there's a lot of constraints with. I mean, there's a lot of things that you can add with Deathwatch, but it also seems like there's, from what you've described, a lot of constraints.
Well, they have you don't have intercessors and firstborn, or you don't have Primaris and firstborn. You have all these different kill teams where you're putting all these different. I'm gonna have this one, and they can have all the plasma stuff, and these guys can have all the these. You can set up things so differently, and mix and match things.
Yeah,
it's just such a high order, but it's so confusing, and there's so many different ways. There's definitely room for someone to go and min max all this stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's too big for its own good. It's shockingly a small codex. But like I said, at the same time, you do need the Space Marine one to play it properly, because there's literally a stratagem saying you can have the ability of any chapter. And it's like, oh, okay, let me get the other book and hold on 15 minutes while I go through and see every possible option I can do here.
Yeah.
Okay, so these guys on this turn are going to be White Scar. They're going to advance and charge, or all this sort of things. So they're big. They're too big for their own good. Luckily, where this book, the flames on the cover, is going to be going into the fire, because it's not. Luckily, it's not a late edition. It's not like Word Bearers or any of the stuff that's coming out at the end. Whereas I feel bad for anyone who bought the Guard Codex, because that's going to go immediately in the trash.
Well, especially with the indexes and with. I was hearing that they're talking about basically having all of the indexes free and available online at launch, which I think is a great idea. I think that's something that they should have been doing for ages now. But
yeah, I mean, GW really has an opportunity to plant some seeds in terms of getting new players, new edition, new players. Everything is up there free. You don't have to buy the indexes. Yeah, there might be some extra stuff that you can buy the indexes. I think they are going to offer paper copies of things. Yeah, or if we're dating all this terribly, but from a snapshot of where we're to now and where things are kind of going, just removing all these hurdles and all these walls to entry. Yeah, right.
I could see it.
Buy the whatever the new box is. It comes with everything. You want to go and take a look. You're playing against somebody and you're not sure what they're all about. Well, just go and look online and see what their deal is. Yeah. You don't have to pay $50 for to look at take a peek at their codex and say, this is what they do. Or do a lot of research on YouTube. Yeah. Their boss spec tactics and say, how do these guys work? Right? I mean, it's kind of funny because that's a channel that is probably the most important resource. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
it's being made for free. So yeah, it's just kind of funny. It's going to be interesting to see what happens to Eldar in the next edition.
I'm cautiously optimistic. That said, apparently the psychic phase is going away, so I have all sorts of questions.
Well, I've definitely commented on lots of videos and things like that or posts where people are like, oh, here's how this is going to work in this edition. It's like, yeah, but I thought this was supposed to be easier. Yeah. Different is not easier, right? Yeah. Oh, all the gun profiles, all the profiles for things that were attached to weapons. So a number of attacks are on the weapon, not the character. It's like, that's not easier. You just made it different. Yeah. So if you have a certain sword now, I'm going to use this sword instead of this one. The attacks are going to be stored on the sword, not the character. Oh. Yeah, right? So the weapon profiles are going to be much more robust. Yeah. And the character ones are going to be shortened. So that's how they're going to be doing it. Like I said to people, you're doing it different. That's not any easier. Yeah. and like stratagems and things like that, and like psychic powers and stuff like that. Psychic powers now are going to be based on the phase that it's in.
Yeah.
So there's going to be fight stratagems. There's going to be, rather than like an actual, if you want to do smite might be in the shoot phase.
Yeah. And in one sense, I guess they're reducing the overall number of stratagems, but it almost feels like if that's how psychic powers are going to work, they might kind of become the new stratagem.
I'm getting the early impression that a lot of stratagems, there's going to be more core stratagems.
Yeah.
There's going to be less faction stratagems than before.
Yeah.
But I think characters are going to have stratagems. So you may end up, in total, getting closer to the number maybe you had before. It's just that instead of finding them on 2 pages in your codex, now you've got them all, stratagems all over the place, potentially on different data slates.
So going back to... it might be different rather than simpler.
Yeah, so now you gotta go... And maybe it makes more sense. Maybe you're in the shoot phase and you're looking at this in data slate for this character on Battlescribe or whatever you're using.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, I'm going down through different things in shoot phase. Okay, I can do this stratagem in shoot phase with this character. But maybe it's not going to be easy. Like I said, different isn't necessarily easy. We'll have to see. Time will tell, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. No, I think that's valid. I got one more question, and I'm going to put you on the spot with this one. This came up in the game that I had with Kevin Byrne, and I was deer in the headlights on this.
Yep.
But eventually came up with an answer, and I asked Gerard as well on his, and I'm going to ask you for Deathwatch, and if you're feeling really ambitious, you can pick one out for Custodes and for Night Lords. I can't believe I forgot the name of Night Lords for a moment there. I was going to say the Conrad Kurz faction.
Pennsylvania faction.
Yeah. If you had to pick a theme song.
Yeah. The old theme song.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is that there's this illusion that Space Marines are cool.
Yeah.
But when you go in and listen to or read books and listen to audio things, it's just a lot of blah blah blah, brother. Blah,
yeah.
Blah, blah. Like it's really milquetoast, and not even like the Hulk Hogan like cool kind of way.
Yeah.
It's just.
So you're saying a Gregorian chant?
Yeah. I mean, you really want to like say like these guys are so metal. Right?
Yeah.
And you really want to make cool choices.
Yeah.
But you really can't. Someone will say, "Oh, well, this is Rammstein," or like. And the thing is that the cooler choices you make for different Space Marine factions, there's other like legitimately cooler. Like, what are you gonna pick for Chaos? If you pick all the coolest stuff for Space Marine, you're diminishing the choices, the power of the choices for Chaos or any other things.
Yeah.
I think it's easier. I'll go in weird order. So the Custodes are the oldest old school.
Yeah.
I literally want to like have loot, like LUTE, because like they're like
no,
poets.
I think it's valid.
Yeah, they're like so old school, and like unlike Space Marines,
yeah,
they're not like they actually have personalities. They are real people.
Yeah.
Because they come from an era before this like ka-chunk mass production.
Yeah.
And I think they are immensely cool in that sense because they are more individualistic than Deathwatch. And I really want to bash some parts onto some of them that like I'm gonna give them like what's the loot called in Doom? There's a particular balisette.
Okay.
I want to like literally put a balisette over the shoulder of one of these dudes.
Nice.
And do some different things. I want to strap some books onto some of them and stuff like that.
Yes.
I think that like they're really interesting. How that plays in the music, I would go really like really medieval stuff. Right?
Yeah.
Like they are artists more than probably most other factions.
Yeah.
Chaos Space Marines or in the Night Lords. I mean, that's as metal as it gets. You can pick the most, I would say, whatever the most edgelordy metal. Because there's nothing too offensive for Night Lords.
Yeah.
Like, people can go on about Slaanesh and everything else.
Yeah.
Night Lords are... And, yeah, it's going to be your typo negatives. It's going to be something that's just, like, really brooding and teenagers writing poetry.
Oh my god.
Right, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Deathwatch is a hard one. I think all the Space Marine ones are really hard.
Deathwatch is you put the iPod on shuffle.
Well, you know what? I think you nailed it. I think you got it, because Deathwatch is not a thing.
Yeah.
Deathwatch is a conglomeration of different things. Would they ever agree to the same radio station?
Oh boy. What would Deathwatch order on a pizza? Their fatal flaw.
What's the one Spotify list that they would all agree to? So the answer is, there is no answer to Deathwatch. You cracked it. It's set at the random.
You've solved my theme song puzzle.
Yeah. I love it. And you know what? I've thought about that question before, and I came up with all kinds of things, and I've had discussions about the theme song. And you cracked it. It's the enigma. It can't be answered. You can't put on the local old-timey rock station, because even that's too limiting.
Yeah.
Space Wolves are not going to put up with that. I mean, God, you got to deal with Dark Angels.
Yeah.
Imperial Fists. Like, this is just not. And then you got Black Shield. You got guys that you don't even know where they came from. Like, someone was talking the other day about Louise. She made the Rainbow Army.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna go and kit bash in a few Rainbow Army Black Shields into Deathwatch.
Okay.
And she was kind of saying like this is an army that doesn't exist anymore. It was something in the old lore, but it went away, and they don't even talk about it. There's like this. I think some like deep cuts here or there. But like, yeah, I definitely want to have a Black Shield, and then there's like little rainbow stripes down the side of one guy, and it's just like, you guys don't even remember who we are.
Yeah.
All right. And then that's so. What consensus did you come up with the Eldar?
For Eldar, I had two possible choices that I went with.
Yep.
One of them being the Immigrant Song.
Yep.
Largely because of the opening and because of the Howling Banshees.
Because this is your Eldar. This is not Eldar in general. This is what is the theme song for your army. Yeah. Totally.
The other possibility I went with, just for shits and giggles, was Do You Believe in Magic?
Cool.
I don't know.
Yep.
That one was...
Yep. Whoa, it's Magic by Pilot?
Oh, that could work, yeah.
Like, I'm looking around, like, I got Sisters of Battle. I mean, they already bring their music with them.
Yeah, they got the organ built in.
Yeah, they already have the Doom pipe, the Doom organ. And, I mean, you got Imperial Guard and yeah, I don't know.
I hate myself for thinking this, but if they do computer games in their downtime, do you think that Krieg play a lot of shovelware? I think I've just sunk to a new low.
Well, they're so self-deprecating and are so suicidal. So maybe they're shovelware. It is certainly possible.
Oh
I
God!
can't even think of what the Krieg song would be, but man, it's gotta be almost as depressing as whatever Night Lords will listen to.
Yeah. Oh, more than likely.
Different genre, same level of depression.
Yeah.
But I'm glad you asked me to come and play Deathwatch. Like, you were like, okay, last one, Deathwatch.
Yeah.
Here's the picture. Here's the theme. You had it all figured out, and I said, okay, yeah. I said, I'll put something together and see how she goes. And
yeah, and it went pretty good.
Crack open this $50 book that I've never used.
Yeah.
And now it's been used just in time for the edition to go away.
Yeah, and for you to buy a new one.
I think the codexes are done.
No, I think that's fair. And, like, I'll play 10th, and I think I'll have fun with 10th, but I think this was definitely my edition. This and 8th, I think they went together really well. This felt more like an 8.5 than a full-on 9th. And, like, there's friends who I'm probably still going to play 9th with. Like, I imagine that, like, me and, like, the Crusade games that I've got going with Brittany right now with Eldar and Tyranids, that's going to be going for decades in 9th. And I'll still be losing every one of those games.
Yep. Well, and the thing is like, my problem with Codex is that how many pages out of a Codex do you actually need?
Yeah.
And if you were to go and say you can only keep 5 pages out of this Codex, the rest are going in the trash.
Yeah.
You know what? Based on whatever your building app is and those sort of things,
yeah,
I think you're probably okay. You probably need to know what your stratagems are. You probably need to know a couple of things about just your couple of special rules. But usually, like, special rules don't go over and over and over pages.
Yeah.
Do you need data slates? No, because whether you're using the official GW builder or some other one,
yeah,
it's all there. So I think in future editions, for the amount of time I actually use spending with a Codex, I think I could probably get by playing just from what I can kind of scramble together, put up an Ozpad Tactics, and say, how do Custodies work in 10th?
And just wing it from there.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
And, I mean, I definitely, for a while, there was times where I just had the data card, that's like the stratagem cards.
Yeah.
But, like, even that's not even going to be a thing.
Yeah.
You're going to buy 6 cards? Or are they going to come up with a pack and it's going to have a card for every character that has the thing?
I don't know how it's going to work.
Don't know.
But I guess we'll find out in June, July, whenever.
Yeah. So how do you, seeing that this is the last go of this run, what is your post-mortem on this whole thing, or we already went there?
I think we've kind of already covered it, but I'm glad that I did this. I'm glad that I learned a little bit better how to make this army work. Glad that I got to know each of these units that I'm working with a little bit better, know what they're good at, know what they're bad at. Sometimes know what they're bad at and do it anyways, because I have learned nothing, apparently, with the bikes. But I think this was a good time. And I think if nothing else has come out of the last year, I've gotten to, like, reconnect and play with a lot of awesome people, and I'm very happy with the way this has all played out.
Would you recommend that other people really go in, take a year, play that one army, do the post-mortems with people, and rather than just a handshake and walk away at your friendly local game store?
Absolutely. I absolutely think it's a good idea. And I think, like, and with us, it's different because we're, like, recording it and turning it into a podcast. But I think if you sit down with everybody you played a game with and talk about things that went well, things that went badly, things that you could improve on for next time, I feel like that's one of the, like, the best things that you can do to get better at playing 40k.
I think what your perspective on the game was that you just played, and speaking to the opponent and what they thought was a real threat.
Yeah.
And getting that other perspective, I think, is really important, because sometimes decisions happen within a game and you think that maybe they happen organically for one reason, and not realize that something you had just done is now causing someone to toss out their plan. And, I mean, you can be playing against real poker face people, and basically you do something and think that it was always going to go that way, and not realize the value in a move that you made, or value in a roll.
Especially because if you're playing a game with as many different factions and as many different rules as 40k, you don't necessarily know, like, I mean, if you know all of the armies and know all of the stratagems and know all of the rules, you might know.
Yeah, exactly.
But for someone just playing on a casual level, or even on like a lower mid competitive level,
Weekend Warriors, if that.
yeah, like you might not realize the impact that a move that you just made necessarily has, or why it worked. And if you, it's that thing where if something fails, you know that it failed and you can fix it for next time. If something works that shouldn't have worked, and you keep doing it expecting it to work, that becomes a problem.
Yeah, and the thing is, too, just because a bad roll can turn you off to a certain tactic that you did, a certain move you made, or taking that thing entirely.
Yeah.
And getting the other players' take on it I was really scared of that thing until that roll happened.
Yeah.
When you said, well, I didn't realize that thing was a threat to you. Because, I mean, this is, unfortunately, a game of gotchas.
Yeah.
Right? When I dropped the Terminators in this game, that was a gotcha. You knew it was there.
Yeah.
You knew it was coming out at some point. It was going to cause a problem. Was I going to put it right behind everything in the corner?
Yeah. And
come in from behind, which is very much the sort of thing.
Well, the entire Phantasm thing that I did earlier, that was a whole gotcha in its own.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. And if I hadn't pointed out that was... You may not have known the complete value out of the Phantasm thing. If I had not sort of said multiple times, yeah, that was okay. Wow, I positioned everything I did as a reaction to what you did, but then you just changed the entire board state.
Yeah.
Right? So, yeah, absolutely. I think this is not only for 40k, but any kind of skirmish or any kind of system, really. I don't know, maybe in some extent, maybe some board games.
Yeah.
But it would have to be something that has some level of depth to it, where it's not all just chance. I mean, there has to be decisions.
Yeah.
There, when you're talking about tabletop war games and measuring and books, encyclopedic books, and looking up rules and everything else, there's enough depth there to really mine the other player's experience out of something. Yeah. And learn about your army from the opponent's point of view.
And, like, a good way to just in general build connections as well. Because when you think about just the number of hours that we put into painting every model, building every model, reading all of the stuff, putting together the lists, it's something that, like, once you've done that, and once you can sit down and have those conversations after, and each get better at doing the thing, or talking about how you painted things, what tricks you used, I think it's a really great part of this hobby when you can start to be collaborative with people, and when you can kind of build, like, even on like a one-on-one level, like a kind of sense of community, or
like, I guess not to drag things out too much, but like, we don't have mentors. Yeah. You don't have like a senior Eldar player who can come in and say, no. Like, what you're doing there, this is not... There's no Robin Williams there to just go and shake your head.
I wish there was sometimes.
We all do. But, like, we don't have the elder statement of, like, I don't have a Deathwatch person or a Custodians person or a Night Lords person. Yeah. That I play Night Lords versus Night Lords, or Eldar versus Eldar, and then, like, no, this is how you do it. Right? And we don't have that. In other places, maybe they do. Yeah. Or maybe you just go and watch a game. I mean, you always have YouTube and stuff like that. But, like...
I think it's one thing to see it. It's another thing entirely to be behind the wheel of it.
For sure. And, like, me and you particularly have certain aesthetics where I'm not taking Mario Kart models because I'm just not going to do that. I don't care what the rules are.
You have standards.
Yeah, and there's been a lot of things that came out more recently, which is I don't care what the rules are. I'm just not going to build that. I'm not going to paint it. I'm not going to field it. I will laugh someone out of the room for doing that. And they're maybe, they definitely will beat me in the game. But, like, who was really the winner and who was really the loser there?
You had to use Mario Kart Double Dash. Was this really worth it?
Yeah. Right? So, but, like, me and you, like, particularly, we're not rules chasing.
Yeah.
And there's things that we like. We're going to put all of our time in investing in that, putting it together, customizing it, painting it, and everything else.
Yeah.
And neither of us have the heart to be at something where we're just getting stuff for the points of rules.
Yeah. There's
been things I've done where I've bought 2 of something or acquired 2 of something, and making the second one is sometimes sort of third one of something. Like, especially when you're talking about big stuff. It's just because it's better to have 2 of them, or it's more of a threat to have 2 of them. Usually that is not fun.
The second Wave Serpent that I did, the fancy one with all the lava effects, I was suffering by the end of that.
And that's probably something that's coming out of that other thing. Like, it's not that it saps on creativity.
Yeah.
But, like, I don't know. You're investing time into doing the same thing again.
Yeah.
And even in certain circumstances where you're heavily customizing it and doing other things, maybe you can find that extra oomph to kind of get through it.
Yeah.
But I think it's just this old school mentality of what's the next thing?
Yeah.
Right? And am I going to get as excited to put another one of these together?
Yeah.
Even knowing that you might do something different with it, it's like, no, give me something completely different, because I don't want to put together my 10th go-kart or whatever it is. I'm not doing it, right? So there's I think maybe that's what would kind of lock us out of. I mean, me and neither you have much interest in the competitive part of it.
No.
But at the same time, like, when something is hot and you got to buy 4 of it.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
maybe I won't do that, and maybe I'll just keep using my Howling Banshees.
Exactly, right? And, like, I'll use the example of, like, Lehman Russes. Like,
yeah.
I will gladly never put together another Lehman Russ. I won't paint another one that I've gotten off of eBay. I got 3 or 4 of them, and I am good.
Yeah.
The next edition, if you need 10 of them to win games, I'm going to take the L.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I'm looking forward to painting my first Land Raider, which will be soon. So
that's exciting. I've always, Land Raiders is one of the few things I've never done, and it seems like they're getting some love.
Yeah.
So
I'm here for it.
Yeah. Big time.
Anyway, that last theme song gotcha question aside, I think we're good to go from here. And yeah, thank you for all of the games and for helping me out so much with this. And yeah, do you have any last thoughts or any social media plugs you want to make before we...
Well, yeah, I do all kinds of... I definitely don't chase the algorithm. I'm on Instagram. I'm Kinpatsu Samurai. And I do all kinds of weird indie game stuff and things that people have never heard of. And maybe I'll get a few clicks now and then when I do something GW. But always some weird stuff going on there.
And also music stuff, too.
Yeah. I don't put... I kind of took a lot of that stuff out of what I was doing. But occasionally there might be a story or something where a gig is happening or something funny's going on.
Nice. But yeah, I think that's all she wrote. This was fun, and that's a wrap. I got nothing else. Bye. Yeah. Thanks for listening to this episode of Path of Casuals and Filth, and a big thank you to Cory for joining me on the podcast. Intro and outro music for Path of Casuals and Filth is Reef from DJ Cutman's free-to-stream album. If you want to see pictures from these games or pictures of some of the miniatures work I've done, you can find it at www.twitchybristless.ca, or you can follow my social media links to my YouTube and Instagram. Stay safe, stay casual, and above all, stay filthy.